I'm going to close out of the setup screen and go to the Connect client. And you can see on the left here, we have a list of our stations that we've configured to be in our LoggerNet network. We just have one station called EcoHouse. And I'm going to click on Connect and keep an eye on this little plug here at the bottom. And if it connects, then that means we've connected to the data logger successfully, which we have. All right, and right now it's the Connect client is collecting the table definitions in the data logger. So the data logger, its data is stored in pretty, two row by column, two-dimensional tables. All right. And so it's getting the names of the columns of those tables. So we'll just let that complete. And once it gets those names, we're going to see, we can take a look at the data. All right. So that notification went away. And we're going to take a look at the tables that are on the data logger. So table monitor. And for example, we have our primary table that we use the most is called per scan. All right, and here are all just think of these fields as all the column names for this particular table, all right? And you can see on the right here, the adjusted server date time is 8 hours ahead of the station date time. I'm sorry, it's 4 hours behind. Sorry, I was missing the PM AM. And this makes sense. So the server where that LoggerNet is running on is the VM, all right, which is it's 10 excuse me, it's 10:10 p.m. UTC. But the data logger itself is set to Gulf Standard Time, which is 4 hours ahead of UTC. All right, now this is one place where we need to be very careful. We have, at this point now, we have 3 different instances of LoggerNet that are connecting to this data logger periodically. We have mine, TRC has one, and now you have one here. And I'm going to delete this whole server and you're going to reinstall everything wherever you want. But eventually there's going to be 3 different LoggerNets connecting to the data logger. And if I hit set here, if all 3 instances of LoggerNet are trying to set the clock to their server time with some sort of a offset, which we can talk about later, we could run into a scenario where the different servers are fighting each other, trying to synchronize the clock. So it's very important that we determine which is the authoritative server that's responsible for things like clock synchronization. So that's an important discussion we have to have. For now, I am not going to change this. I'm going to leave it the way it is. At this point, I believe TRC is the one that's syncing the clocks, but we need to check with them. And you may want to take back control of that from them. Not sure, but I'm not syncing the clocks anymore. I used to, but when I was in Oman last April, we agreed that TRC we'd do that in the future. All right, a couple other things here. You can see the current program. Now this is the current, so each data logger, it operates on, it's like an operating system that, it's got its own operating system, and there's a program that needs to be uploaded to the data logger, which is responsible for collecting, for talking to all the sensors and doing a lot of math and determining how the data should be stored. That program, for example, is what specifies the names of these fields in the data table. And it also does things like determines how frequently the sensors will be read. So you'll see here on the timestamp field, we're going to have a new timestamp every 20 seconds. So this interval down here, 1 second interval, this is just the interval that we set for, or that was set by default to update the numbers in this table. Just for in the Connect screen, we have this, this table monitor is just a view of the data in the data tables. And the 1 second here just means we want this to be refreshed every second. But you're only going to see these numbers change every 20 seconds because the data logger program, which is a .cr1, or that's short for CR1000, that program says, okay, we want to read these sensors and store the data every 20 seconds. All right, so you're going to see the timestamp here. It's going to go to 2:14 and 0 seconds. All right. So that's our core data interval, 20 seconds, that we use. Now there's other tables I have here, hourly and 15-minute or min 15, which aggregate the data. So they aggregate that 20-second data up to a 15-minute level and an hourly level. And I created those tables for the sole purpose of presenting different aggregations in the RTMC Pro dashboards. There's really nothing new. The main table is the per scan table. These other ones are just aggregations. Now the other three, public, status, and data table info, are automatically created by the data logger operating system. And I'm sorry, the status and the data table info ones are: public is a table of all the public variables that are declared inside the data logger program. All right. And I may, at some point, maybe make another video having to do with data logger programming, but these are all the public variables in the program itself. If we wanted to take a look at the program, we could say retrieve. So this means we want to retrieve it from the data logger and then just save it to our VM here. So we're going to save it in. If you remember, when we installed LoggerNet, we specified what the working directory would be. And so you can see here it's documents, Campbell Sci, LoggerNet. So we'll just save it in there. And I'm not going to get into programming at all here, but I'll just open it up in the program editor so you can take a look at it. I'm not sure how big this file is. It won't take very long. But the team may decide at some point, have an agreement with TRC and myself, that you want to be responsible for creating your own program to run special experiments in the house, things like that. So really, if you want the data logger to operate differently than it is now, that will absolutely require a different data logger program or modifications to the existing program. And when that's done downloading, we're going to open it up using this other tool called CR Basic Editor. CR Basic is the language. It's a variation of the BASIC language that includes a lot of instructions that are specific to Campbell Scientific equipment. So if we open that up, all right, we're going to open an existing file. And it, okay, we actually saved it. I think we saved it in LoggerNet. Yeah. So let's actually, I'm going to cut, CR Basic Editor. Let's save it in that folder, because that was the folder that, in the working directory that CR Basic expected the programs to be. All right. So this is the program that's running in the data logger. And when I said that the public table right here is a table of all the public variables that are declared in the program, you can see here these two fields that start off are automatically included, 1 is a record number, so this number will increment by 1 every time there's a new 20-second record in the table. Timestamp is now the public table. You see this number changing every few seconds, and that's because I'm sorry, I misspoke a second ago. That record number, I believe in the public table, the record number, it just updates every time. I'm actually not sure how that works. I only really ever use the record number in the per scan table, because this is the one. This is the per scan table is the persistent data that we're storing every 20 seconds. The public table, this does update every 20 seconds. The timestamp is updating here. I think it's updating every time that the Connect client pulls it, that it looks for changes in the public table. But you don't have to worry about this. Sorry to confuse that a little bit. If we look at the first field here, which is not record number or timestamp, it's battery _ voltage and then low power turn off. So those should be the first two public variables that are declared in the program. And you can see here public battery voltage is the first one, and then low power turn off is the second. So if you were to go all the way through this program and look for all the public variables, you would see them listed in the exact same order that they're included in the public table in this table monitor, okay? And not to get into programming here too much, but just one quick thing. When you see a 2 here, this is an array of 2 numbers. So outside TRH2 means there's an array of 2 outside temp RHs, number 1 and 2, and we'll see that down here. And actually, I gave them an alias. So here I said outside temp RH number 1 should be called outside TRH _ degree C, and then the second one should be outside %RH. And you can see those right here. So this is the same as outside TRH1 of the array and then outside TRH2 of the array. All right. So that's all I'm going to say about the programming for now. We're going to close out of the Connect screen. We've proven here that we have successfully connected to the data logger.